Arsenal win 6-0 at West Ham after a fantastic display in which we had 5 goal scorers, Declan Rice turning from creator twice into brilliant goal scorer, and even a first appearance in the Premier League this season for a youngster that many Arsenal fans have been calling for too. What an afternoon, what a win. We're going to talk about it all on the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our 8 a.m. Raw Reaction Show, joining you the morning after the night before, which was, of course, a fantastic, exuberant, free-flowing and scoring victory against the West Ham side who have tried their hardest, tried their darndest to become Arsenal's supposed rivals. The artificially created rivalry that threatened to start for a few games is dead and done and never ever really truly started. So they can quieten themselves down whilst Arsenal continue on a pathway well away from them with their best player, arguably maybe best ever creation in Declan Rice. But a massive thank you to everyone that's joining me this morning. Really appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much for doing so. Good morning to Carlton and Josh and Tom and Keith. Good morning to Leopold and Graham and Francois and Jack, Stevie, Red Star, Nav, Mark Rice, Babatundi. We've got Louis and David and Angela and Bakary, Lasagna, Stephen, Vivian. We've got Ishmael and plenty more of you guys and girls joining us as well. Thank you so much for doing so. Sorry if StreamYard has mugged some of you guys and girls off without mentioning you getting in there first. My apologies. But I can't do anything about that, I'm afraid. And please do drop a like on the video. We are trying to get to 1K every single day from, well, the start of last week to the end of the season. It's a major undertaking and it's hugely difficult to be able to do it. But I know with this community and with you guys as well in the chat box that we can. So please do show your support. Drop a like on the video, subscribe, all that lovely stuff. I can see some regulars in the chat box like Damien and Blackshine and Matt G as well, who I know probably got in there first, and Peekahoo. But sadly, StreamYard bugged them off. So just to give you guys a shout out as well. And Peekahoo with a very kind donation. 16 goals for and only 2 against in 4 games. Incredible. Hashtag come on you Gooners. Absolutely. And Nick Meadows has said, after 12 months of being a member, perfect display, even giving you for chance. Arteta out. Lovely stuff. Right, shall we go into today's slides? I think we should. So we start, of course, with the roundup. West Ham 0, Arsenal 6. The best performance of the entire season, perhaps in Arteta's tenure. An 8,000th league win for the Gunners and the biggest away victory in Arsenal's Premier League history as well. We thought the records were done. We thought Arteta could break no more, but that is a new one. 2 new ones, in fact, under Mikel Arteta. Brilliant stuff. An amazing day. It certainly was not, and it didn't have the feel of a game that was going to end up being 6-0 come full time. But that is exactly what we got in the end. It was a 6-0 victory that I'm trying to think of the last time Arsenal scored 6 and didn't concede any in one game. It's quite some time ago, I think. The Lens game threatened, of course, to do that, but I think that ended up as 5-0. But yeah, so many fantastic opportunities for Arsenal in this game, and they managed to take 6 of them. And yet still, I had people tweeting me saying, I wish that we could take more of our chances. We scored 6, guys. 6. Let's just enjoy it. Anyway, the goal scoring was opened by William Saliba, heading in off the back of the first of 2 deliveries from Declan Rice during this game, popping up at the back post. There had been a number of other chances leading up to this point, but thankfully the game was opened. Oh, thank you. It was 6-0 against Lens. Much appreciate that. I was thinking of away games. I don't think we have had an away game where we've won and scored 6 goals, or at least not to 0. I remember the Reading game in the League Cup, of course, we scored 7, but we conceded 5 as well. But William Saliba scoring the first goal of the game, and I love the celebration. just the pure joy of it, the pure brilliance of it, of him running away absolutely joyous and jubilant. And You can tell that he absolutely loves being an Arsenal player, can't you? He just loves playing this game. He loves playing for Arsenal, and it was a brilliant header, and it wasn't the only header from a set piece that we had on the day either. However, before we get to that, Bukayo Saka avenged his penalty miss. And of course, that last season moment where Saka missed that penalty, he finally turns up with the goods. It was a brilliant kind of phase of play, which allowed Saka to go through on goal, which is something that we've hardly had against teams that like to sit deep. But the ball through was perfect, and Saka getting taken out by Areola. What a bit of a tit he looked. But I can't make that joke, can you? But Bukayo Saka avenging his penalty miss from last season. And not only that, but of course he popped up with Arsenal's 5th, I think it was, on the day in the second half as well, cutting inside. Lovely bit of passing play from there, and then just cut inside Odegaard, who'd really given up by this point, and smashed it in the bottom right-hand corner. The third goal of the day was Gabriel's. Gabriel scoring again, it seems, after his scoring forays in January. Gabriel now extending that scoring run of 2024 into February. I think he still has the record for being the highest goal-scoring defender of any player since he's arrived at the club in 2020. Amazing record for him, and just continually showing why he is and continues to be one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Fantastic performance once again from him defensively and offensively, and another threat from a set piece, which Declan Rice, of course, delivered to a T. One of the best reasons and what's best decisions we have made this season is by putting Declan Rice back onto set pieces. He took set pieces at West Ham. He wasn't on set pieces at the start of this season. Now he's on set pieces, and my goodness me, he is proving to be a real asset from those dead play situations as well. And we've got two centre halves that are incredibly threatening when the ball gets put into those positions. Nicholas Jova as well deserves a hell of a lot of credit. I saw Harry giving him plenty yesterday. Now, Trossard with a very, very classic Trossard goal, finding himself in the box. Another assist from Odegaard for this one. Finds himself in that position, curling it into the top right-hand corner. Areola can't get his hand to it, but fantastically brilliant finish again. And to be honest, I'll tell you what, there was a lot of discussion before the game kicked off. There was a lot of question marks about the selection in the team of playing Havertz in midfield and Trossard playing up top as well. And I stayed quite quiet in these conversations because I thought, well, actually, we've got a lot of attacking threat. We're away from home. I'm kind of liking Arteta taking a bit of a risk, if you like. He said after the game that he felt like Jorginho couldn't really play and was still necessarily recovering from that game against Liverpool last weekend. However, I think that he could have chose different players. He could have gone slightly different with the team. He could have played a more natural striker like Nketiah if he wanted to, but he didn't. He went with Trossard, who's in really good form. And Trossard was fantastic on the day as well. Some lovely movement. He had a couple of opportunities outside of his goal, which he probably should have done better with as well. A really good header that went over the bar, a volley that went straight at the French goalkeeper. And in the second half, I think there was a left-footed strike right at the start of the second half, which he should have done better with. But to be fair, to score the goal that he scored on the day, you have to take it in a 6-0 win. So happy days. And Declan Rice capped off the scoring, the 6th goal scorer on the day in what was a really weird goal. Ben White on the right-hand side cuts the ball back for both of Odegaard and who was the other player that was there as well? Or somebody else. I think it was Trossard. And both of them kind of let the other one go for it, which means they then missed the ball. Rice is like, you guys can play amongst yourselves. I'm just going to take ownership of this and smash this in the top left-hand side of the goal. Fantastic goal. Obviously, the celebration was there. And at the end of the day, it was the icing on the cake. I think we have to agree with that. It was just the perfect end and perfect way to finish off the scoring. Yes, scoring a 7th would have meant that Arsenal went second, and that was it. What did I say? Trossard. It was Trossard, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Trossard. I thought it was. Trossard was the other guy that Odegaard was with. What did I say? Am I having a funny 5 minutes again? Declan Rice smashing in the top left-hand side. Brilliant. Unbelievably good strike. And, he's got this ability to be able to find himself in positions outside the box, and he wants to improve his goal scoring and striking the ball ability. And he's certainly been, I think, at least practicing, and I think he's been mentioned to have been practicing his shooting. He wants to add more goals. He wants to score more goals. So yeah, fantastic strike from him. Celebration, respectful. I actually think to a degree he earned back some of the respect from West Ham fans during this game. There was an early point in the game where a corner was being taken. He went over to take it, and whilst there was initial boos as he walked over, Rice was giving an applause to the West Ham fans, and they gave him a round of applause back. When he was brought off as a substitute, he was roundly applauded as well. And at the end of the game, for those West Ham fans that were still left, because there was barely any in the stadium by full time, as he went around the stadium, he got a round of applause from those that were still in the ground. So I think he's probably earned back some of that respect that initially had been lost at the beginning. So I think it was maybe a bit of a transformative day for Rice, for both his Arsenal and his West Ham legacy as well. Now, I've got more words I think I've ever put on a slide for Martin Odegaard, who had a captain's display despite not scoring on the day. The numbers are crazy. First player since 03-04 to do 100+ passes, create 5 chances, and assist multiple goals in the same game. And he's the first player to create 50+ chances from open play in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. He is a brilliant footballer. And if you're not convinced by this point, you're just living on the wrong planet. You just do not understand football if you don't understand how good. And I usually hate that phrase. If you don't get this, you don't get football. I'm not usually a big fan of that phrase, but I think it's relevant for Martin Odegaard. If you cannot appreciate how good Martin Odegaard is at this point and what he is producing and what he has done for this team at his age, to be a captain at so young, at 22, to take that captaincy, to move forward now, moving into his mid-20s, he's an unbelievable footballer. He's a world-class footballer. For me, it's subjective, that term, and you can define it any way you like. But for me, Martin Odegaard is a world-class player and is amongst the best players in the world in his position, and the numbers back it up. People asked for him to deliver on the biggest stage, and he did that last week against Liverpool. He had a fantastic game against Liverpool in the biggest game of Arsenal's season. And in the best performance of Arsenal's season yesterday, he was the man. He was the player that made everything happen. Yes, Declan Rice was involved heavily and probably deserved the man of the match, but my goodness me, is Martin Odegaard as influential as anybody and in any game. He's brilliant and deserves far more credit than he actually gets. And the critics this season, my goodness me, I remember going on shows and other channels where I was told that Martin Odegaard's not good enough. Well, my goodness me, they are so hilariously being put down by this man's performances this season. Amazing stuff. And we have to talk about Ethan Nwaneri as well. Given the opportunity, Arteta joked in the press conference afterwards that some of the Arsenal players apparently were whispering about getting Ethan the opportunity. I really hope people don't take that the wrong way and now say, look, if it wasn't for people on the bench, you wouldn't have brought him on. I think that's a lot of rubbish. It's just a nice joke that he said in the press conference after the game. He was always going to bring him on in that moment, and he gave him a lot of time, actually, which is really great to see. And I think he certainly looked like a 16-year-old on the big stage, where there were moments where he definitely should have taken a chance and taken a shot. But the idea of wanting to not mess up, I think maybe overtook him. And so he laid the ball off instead of taking a shot. I really wish he had taken a couple of efforts, because he got himself into some really good situations where he could have taken those chances. His first involvement was giving away a free kick. And I think there has to be something said about the debuts that young players have. I'm almost certain that the first thing that most debutants, I know he wasn't a debutant this season because he made his debut last season, but there's something to be said about the young guys when they come on. One of the first things that they often do is make a foul, because they're so enthusiastic about coming on. They just chase down the nearest player that's got the ball and often give a foul away. Ethan Nwaneri looked really bright and he looked really sprightly and had an impact on this game, which was fantastic to see as well. So I really enjoyed his performance. I also loved the way that Martin Odegaard continued to kind of tutor him and mentor him through the game. I don't know if other people noticed this. Every time he was on the ball, every time he played a pass, when the next kind of phase of play petered out, Odegaard would straight over to him and congratulating him, or he was on the other side of the field and looking up for him and clapping him. He looked great. And obviously with Smith Rowe at the moment injured, and I've heard that it's a rolled ankle. So we'll see. Arteta said that as well during his interview. Hopefully it's only a minor problem and he'll only be out for a couple of weeks or so. We don't know that, but we'll find out, I guess, in the next couple of weeks and how he responds to this rolled ankle, which is a very common injury, by the way. It's not a case of like, oh, Smith Rowe injured again. Players roll their ankles all the time and miss a couple of games. It's very normal. But yeah, I mean, Ethan Nwaneri, He's in the squad. He's going to be on the bench maybe for a little bit because Smith Rowe's not here. We've got Burnley away next. If we get another good scoreline up there, could we see him get another opportunity? I hope so. I hope we continue to give him these opportunities because he deserves it. He's one of the few youth players that seems of the level that he can make impacts in certain games, that he can get some minutes for this Arsenal team. And I hope that certainly turns out to be the case. And I just want to kind of finish this part one with 2 more slides. This one just being, I love this team. I absolutely love this team. It's so easy to say, but of all the Arsenal teams, down the years that I in my shorter life compared to many other Arsenal fans I know, but I love this group of players. It's just such an enjoyable side to watch. They're such a likable group. Players like Saka have really turned a corner in the last couple of games. His form has improved dramatically. At his best game of the season, I think, yesterday. Odegaard, I've already waxed lyrical about, and Declan Rice. But Saliba and Gabriel at the back are just so strong. Jakub Kiwior, shout out to Jakub Kiwior as well, coming in at left back. He's received a lot of criticism. He's now played against Liverpool and won. He's now played away at West Ham in our best performance of the season at left back. Ben White, I thought, was again solid and frustrating when he nearly got booked because he kept kicking the ball away. It's just this horrible bloke, isn't he? Kai Havertz, one of those displays again from Havertz where if you need to probably have a bit of a rewatch to understand what he did, but his movement's just excellent. Like, he's so elegant as he plays Havertz across the pitch. Lovely little layoff. Should have got an assist for I think it was Saka as he ran across the left-hand side. Lovely little layoff for him inside the box as well. Kai Havertz was just went through the game and contributed here and there. I'd want to see him score. I want to see him do more, obviously. I want him to have a more obviously good performance. But when you have those rewatches and you watch the games back, you see how important his movement and his contributions are to the game as well. Lars says performances like this make the shirt look better. It's amazing. Even after a 6-0 win, I didn't like the shirt anymore. It shows you where my head's at with that one. And just to finish off part one, Mikel Arteta's on a roll at this point. We're just moving, aren't we, steadily towards that brand new contract. And he gets his selection absolutely spot on once again today. Substitution spot on again today. The coaching of the set piece routines, the coaching of the way in which we're going to kind of break down some of these defensive sides. He's just got it spot on. It's a game where we score 6 goals and all of the attention's on the players, and quite rightly so. But Arteta is the one that's getting. Arteta is the one that's getting these players playing the way that they are. He's the one that's delivering these systems, delivering these performances, delivering these lineups. And you just got to give the man so much credit for what he's doing. And for a successive season, Arsenal look like they're going to be in another title race, which is just great. This game obviously took us in terms of the table very, very close to our rivals. We're now just one goal behind in goal difference to Liverpool. We're level on goal difference with Manchester City, which is really important. Had we have scored another goal, we would have gone into second, even though we've played a game more than Man City. But that goal difference is going to be really key come the end of the campaign. Not to mention, we've got 53 goals scored this season. We've got 14 games left of the campaign. If Arsenal were to score, how many are we? We're 35. We're 35 goals away from the tally of goals that we had last season. By the way, we're only 2 goals behind Liverpool and 3 goals behind Man City in terms of what we've done in those areas. We're 35 goals away from the 88 we scored last season, and we've got 14 games left. We're just over 2 goals a game away from matching that record, and that was the most goals we've ever scored in a Premier League season. So if we can start scoring to the record that we're scoring at the moment, 3 goals against Liverpool, 5 goals against Palace, 6 goals against West Ham, at the moment, the way that we're playing, we can really deal some damage to these teams. So I really look forward to seeing. And Rob says, but we can't finish. It's just so funny now, isn't it? Like, we're always moaning about the fact we couldn't take our chances, but now all we're doing is taking these opportunities that are given to us as well. So brilliant stuff. And this comes, by the way, without Jesus, without Timber, without Smith Rowe, without Vieira, without Tomiyasu, without who else we're missing? We're missing somebody else. Have I said Partey and Timber? I think I have. Zinchenko. No Zinchenko either. We're missing so many key players that could start. Tomiyasu could start for us. Timber could start for us. Partey could start for us. Jesus could start for us. And we're missing all of these players, and we're scoring 6. Smith Rowe could arguably start in some games and has done. Zinchenko can start for us. So that's how impressive we're being at the moment. It's really, really good from this side. And I just love seeing goals go in the back of the net so frequently. And do you know who else did? Ian Wright did. And you can win a signed and framed Ian Wright shirt by going to the link in the description if you are based, of course, in the UK or know somebody that can get you a ticket that is based in the UK. I can tell you that of the competition that we've had, 299 tickets are available at the start of this competition. 87 are left. So less than a third of tickets now available. There's 3 days left to get involved with this. Link, as I say in the description. There's instant win prizes to win as well if they haven't been won already. A signed Odegaard shirt, a signed Freddie Ljungberg shirt, and lots of football prizes, site credit as well to enter future competitions. But please get involved because this man scored a plenty of goals for Arsenal. And Arsenal are certainly emulating some of the goal-scoring feats that he provided. So get involved. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, let's jump into the chat box, shall we? And tackle some of your questions. We're going to go to Louis says, did you see Scholes' comment on Rice? Apparently, he didn't celebrate enough. Oh, surely not. Surely not. Is that actually true? Scholes on Declan Rice news. I can't see anything at the moment about celebrations, but if that's true, that's just hilarious, isn't it? Akmal says, any thoughts on the AFCON and the Asia Cup, Tom? Both host nations winning the tournaments. You got to give credit to Ivory Coast, of course, who were looked down and out, weren't they? Really down and out of that competition so early on during that season. And to come back and do what they've done. Commiserations to Nigeria, of course, who got all the way to the final themselves. But what scenes. And Qatar as well, winning the Asia Cup, host of that tournament. You've seen some massive, massive countries knocked out. Australia, South Korea, and Japan as well, and amongst others. And credit to Jordan for getting to the final as well. Credit to them. An amazing achievement for them to reach the final of the Asia Cup. But Qatar winning it. And Afif with one of the most iconic celebrations, maybe. The magic that Afif produced for the cameras. That's quite enjoyable. JC says, Emery only has 2 wins now in 2024. I remember our 20-game unbeaten run under Emery. What happened afterwards? Just saying. The cult of Emery is in tatters. The cult of Unai Emery's Arsenal critics is in absolute ruin at this stage. Losing against Manchester United at home, knocked out of the FA Cup by Chelsea at home, losing to Newcastle in embarrassing fashion at home. Douglas Luiz doing a dancing celebration before losing in the mud. In the mud are Aston Villa. Goodness me, they really did hype up their season. They really did hype up that hubris that they're going to get ahead of Arsenal into the top 4. Oh, dear. Ian says, our link-up play in front of goal has improved so much recently, and it's since Eddie hasn't started. Do you think that we'll sell him in the summer? That's a bit harsh to just label Eddie, but I absolutely understand where you're coming from. I think that he should be sold in the summer. I think he's a player that we need to move on from and upgrade on, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. Arsenal Avenger says, why does Ten Hag talk about us? He needs to keep us out of his mouth unless he's challenging us. Keep my name out your mouth, all right, Ten Hag? That's the way forward, Arsenal Adventure. I don't know. He's just jealous. It's envy. The way he talks about that game, saying that they should have beaten us, is the biggest fraud. He's, to steal Hugh's word, he's the biggest fraud of a manager out there. He really, really is. And I tell you what, him and Ange Postecoglou have got incredibly lucky with the points they've accrued this season. If either of them get into the top 6, let alone the top 4, it is just such a jammy finish to both of their squads, both of their teams' seasons. Rob says, I'm trying to find the stats for his 06 and the West Ham loss. I bet they weren't that different. That's a really interesting point, actually. West Ham 06 Arsenal. Let's see if we can compare the stats. Arsenal 0-2 West Ham. Let's have a quick look if we can have a look at the stats for both of these games, because it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it, how different the stats were. So in the 6-0 win, Arsenal had 25 shots. West Ham had 5. In the 2-0 loss, this is quite funny, Arsenal had 30 shots. West Ham had 6. In terms of shots on target, Arsenal had 12. In that game, they had 8. So, yeah, it was that clinicalness to get the ball on target. In terms of possession, Arsenal had 71% in the 6-0 win. They had 75% in a 2-0 loss. In terms of passes, Arsenal played 692 passes in their 6-0 win. In the 2-0 loss, they played 749. In terms of pass accuracy, it was 90 in the 2-0 loss. It was 93 in the 6-0 win. And in terms of offsides, there was none in the 2-0 loss, and there was 2 in the 6-0 win. In terms of corners, Arsenal had 10 corners in their 2-0 defeat, and they had just 6 in their 6-0 win. It really does show you, I think it's to do with confidence. During that period in the, I'm just using Google, by the way, Rob, to look at those stats. In terms of like the 2 games, Arsenal, when they played West Ham, have come off the back of their defeats to Aston Villa. Let me find that run. I've got it on my screen. So the Aston Villa game. Yeah, so we lost to Aston Villa. We drew with PSV. We'd just beaten Brighton. Then we drew at Anfield. And then, of course, we lost to West Ham and then lost to Fulham and then lost to Liverpool. And now we're on a 4-game winning run, having scored 16 goals in 4 games. Which is just, it's confidence, it's sharpness, as Amberley says here, absolutely. I think it's slightly differences in the lineup, it's the availability of certain players perhaps as well. So, yeah, I really, really hope that, I really, really hope that this form continues because it's been absolutely fantastic. I think we have to agree. Zaid says, morning, Tom, I'm buzzing after the win. Why do you think Arteta went for Cedric over Raw Waters? I guess that's one of the only down points of the game. I don't know, mate. I really wish he had gone with Raw Waters instead of Cedric. That's really the only question mark I've got. Why not give a debut to Waters? Why not show that there is that pathway? Cedric's leaving at the end of the season. Yeah, that is my only real question mark, I guess, from the game with Arteta is why not give Waters the opportunity over Cedric? But I don't want to do it. Samson says, hi, Tom. I saw you at the game yesterday. I was standing by the gate and you were having a mare with your accreditation in the I was having a mare with the accreditation, and Samson, I think we spoke. So like there was one person doing the all of the press, as there was like 5 press people, including me, waiting to get through like the security barrier. There was one person doing the barrier walkthrough, even though there's like 6 or 7 gateways. And then once we were through, they didn't tell us how to get through the electronic gates. There's a QR code on the back of your tag, and that wasn't working. So yeah, so I had an absolute mare, mate. Absolute mare, but none of it was my fault, and I enjoyed the game afterwards, so happy days. P Sharp, did Arteta say anything about Smith Rowe's absence? Any news on Vieira's disappearing from memory? Vieira is still recovering from 2 issues that needed surgery to resolve, so he hopefully be back in the coming weeks. We'll see. Smith Rowe rolled his ankle in training, so he'll be out, I imagine, for a couple of weeks, maybe more. We'll see. It's hopefully just a minor problem. Lars says, is Tomiyasu injured or just rested for the Asia Cup? Tomiyasu has suffered with repetitive injury problems throughout the season. He's gone away to the Asia Cup and played successive matches in a very short space of time. I'm not surprised the club are being very careful with his recovery back from that tournament, because if you remember, he only just came back from injury when he started playing in that tournament. So to suggest or criticize Tommy in any way is, I think, just mad. So, yeah, there you go. Sean says, Arteta out. Passero. I don't even know who that is. I'm hoping this is just, what's the word? Satire. It surely must be. Jabu says, I enjoyed seeing Ben White invert and Kivior stay back. One thing about Arteta, he learns and improves from his mistakes, and Martinelli at centre forward maybe next season. Let's go to Chilo says, is Rice almost the best midfielder in the league now, and is Trossard our best attacker at the club? In your expert opinion, of course. Rice, for me, is alongside Rodri as being the best midfielders, with De Bruyne, of course, up there as well. For the contributions this season, Rice and Rodri have got to be there. And also, I think Conor Gallagher deserves a lot of credit from his time at Chelsea. He's been the only real standout player at Chelsea this season, has had a really, really good campaign. Is Trossard our best attacker? I don't think so, no. I think our best attacker remains Bukayo Saka, but Trossard's produced such good performances for us. It's absolutely brilliant. DGR says, Tom, I have such a premonition about Rice. I think Declan himself isn't aware of how good a shot taker he is. He's dead accurate and he has real power behind his shots. More shots on goal, please, Declan. I would certainly agree with that, mate. Yeah, I think he does need to take more opportunities and he does need to take more shots from outside the box. Tyler says, I believe it's time for Jonas Eidevall to go. I've not been impressed with the team's performance under him and believe he's not getting best out of the squad. Yeah, I was going to mention the women's defeat in the FA Cup in tomorrow morning's show, but just on that, it is a very disappointing result. And there's no doubt that Jonas Eidevall is absolutely under pressure. So very frustrating to be at the FA Cup after a season that was starting to promise quite a bit, especially to Manchester City, who I would say we are better than. But yeah, very, very disappointing in yesterday's. Kind of got swallowed up, I suppose, in the 6-0 win on the men's side, but very, very disappointing defeat indeed. Hulk and Dino says, guys, we've only got 300 likes and we need 700 at least. There's not long left. Please do, if you haven't done so already. I didn't plug it, actually. I should have done at the start of part 2. That's my bad. We are trying to get to hashtag 1K every day in likes. So please do drop a like on the video if you haven't done so already. If you're listening on audio platforms, head over to YouTube when you get a chance and leave your daily like to help us reach our 1K every single day target. That would be very much appreciated if you could do that. There's over 1,000 of you currently watching. Thank you so much for the kind support that you're giving to the channel as always. Christian says, what is our next most challenging Premier League game? Well, the next one is the next one, Christian. We got to go to Burnley, which I know on paper looks really simple. And then, of course, we've got Newcastle coming up soon after that as well. But you've got to take each game as it comes. We've got Porto away in the Champions League. That's a really tough game. Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, then Chelsea. But, of course, that Chelsea game could get postponed before at the end of March we face Manchester City. What I will say is if we face Manchester City and that Chelsea game is postponed, Arsenal will have had a 19-day break, nearly 3 weeks off before playing Manchester City. Because, of course, that FA Cup weekend that we're not involved in, and if Chelsea's game is postponed, if they do indeed beat Chelsea. Now, I don't know about you, but from my perspective, I'm not so keen on that. And I know that there's an international break, so some of the players will be away with their nations, of course, but I'm not so keen on there being that long of a break between Arsenal games. A, because that would be horrific. 3 weeks nearly without Arsenal. It's like the summer window. That's going to be a really, really tough period of time. But hopefully we see things better in the chat. In that regards, let's go to Tizer says they should go on a Dubai break again during those 3 weeks. I think they probably will have a bit of a break as well. Maybe we've come back so well from that last Dubai trip, maybe that we need to have another breakaway as well. I'm sure that they would be playing some behind closed doors friendlies if they weren't. It would seem a bit off, want to keep yourself as match sharp as feasibly possible. Hopefully that turns out to be the case. And Per says, if you could bring back one of the injured players, who do we need the most? Considering Kivior had a good game at left back, I'm tempted to say Jesus as well. I think Timber still remains to me. And Thomas Partey, of course, is a big player for us, but Jurrien Timber continues for me to be a really key missing aspect of this team, and I can't wait to see him back. Ian says, so much wanted for Havertz to score a goal, alas, but a good thing is the important players, Rice, Saka, Trossard, have a good rest. Also, Trossard is the most accurate player, it seems, in front of goal. We say that. He had 4 chances in this game, scored 1. The other 3 went off the other 2 went off target. 1 went straight at Areola. So we say that, but he actually missed some really big chances in that game. Fractions Offside Podcast says, what are your thoughts on Martinelli's display? He played well, but would you like to see something more from him? I always want to see more. There's always room for improvement in players, of course, but yeah, I think that Martinelli still had a very decent game, linked up well and performed well. And he, as Alexander says here, he interchanged with Trossard really, really well throughout the fixture. So there you go. Right. Do please drop a like on the video, as I say, before you go. It's been an absolute pleasure to join so many of you this morning. And I cannot wait to talk more about Arsenal Football Club in the coming weeks. It's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. And this season, of course, is continuing to throw up plenty of exciting games for us to break down and to talk about. I'll be back tomorrow morning, of course, with another breakdown of all the latest news from the previous 24 to 48 hours, including probably some more transfer stuff that has emerged over the weekend. Any more updates on injuries, and, of course, a little bit of reaction to yesterday's disappointing FA Cup defeat for the women's side too. Have a fantastic Monday and start to your week. I hope that you enjoy yourselves. I've got a day off today, so I'm going to enjoy it. And I look forward to speaking with you all very, very soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gooners. Rice, baby.